What's going on, people? My name is Batman, and I wanted to go over all the important information that you should understand about the Steam machine when deciding which next-gen console you want to buy, because obviously, in my most recent video, I passionately advocated for the Steam machine, essentially taking over the entire console market niche, destroying the Xbox and the PlayStation, and delivering we the gamers to the promised land. But I think I misjudged how much information most people actually had about the Steam machine. Some people said they had never heard of it, period. Which was surprising at first, but I guess it does kind of make sense. I think because I sort of have a foot in both the PC and console gaming worlds, I forget that there would be a difference between the two communities when it came to how much they had heard about the Steam machine. You know, everyone that uses Steam or plays on the PC has, I'm sure, heard plenty about it. But I think the console community probably has heard a lot less about it simply because their paths don't necessarily cross with Steam's advertising very often. Because reading the comments, it occurred to me that a lot of people were confused about some of the basic facts regarding what the Steam machine is and what it does. For instance, the most common misconception seems to be that the Steam machine is a PC, which technically it is and it can be used like one, but it's designed like a console. It has a controller, it does not use the mouse and keyboard, although it can. It's a compact little box, it's not a huge clunky PC tower. It's in development by Steam. Steam already has the biggest gaming software platform available on the computer. It's got like 65 million users. Its game library includes every game you could think of, all the Call of Duties, Battlefield, Skyrim, whatever. And of course the Steam library will certainly be available on the Steam machine. But what's cool is that it handles like a console but runs like a PC, because again, it is technically a computer, just like the Xbox and the PlayStation are technically computers. It's all the same parts, just rearranged differently. The thing is, the Xbox and PlayStation don't give you the freedom that you have on a computer. You can't upgrade them. You can't download whatever programs you want. You only have access to apps that have cut a deal with Microsoft or Sony, like how you have to use Bing instead of Google on the Xbox. You don't have access to games unless they are approved by Microsoft or Sony, and this gives both companies the ability to use us as pawns to fuck one another. Case in point, Titanfall. I think it's bullshit that PlayStation users don't get to play Titanfall. It's a deliberate tactic to compete with another company in what I would argue is a cheap shot, because competition in the marketplace is supposed to benefit the consumer, but in this instance it just fucks over half of the FPS fan base. I would argue that anytime consumers are worse off because of a competition between businesses, then the tactics those businesses are using are clearly not in line with the ideals of capitalism. And if we all moved on to the Steam machine, there would be no such thing as an exclusive anymore. And I'm not trying to disparage console gamers. I am a console gamer. I have an Xbox One. Even though I have a pretty decent PC, I got it because I'm not a huge fan of the mouse and keyboard. For first-person shooters anyways, which is the original reason I was excited for the Steam machine in the first place, because it's really all about combining the best of both the console and the PC worlds. For me, the original selling point was the controller. You know, in the past I have considered switching to the PC for gaming exclusively, but again, I just wasn't feeling the mouse and keyboard, and this is probably just because I grew up starting at the age of like 5 on a controller, and I didn't start using the mouse and keyboard until like 2 years ago. And you can plug Xbox controllers or special-made PC controllers into the PC and use it for PC games, but you kind of get screwed over because there's no aim assist on PC, and that's because you don't need it when you're using a mouse and keyboard. So switching to joysticks kind of fucks you for the same reason it's really hard to play without aim assist on the consoles. And also, the mouse and keyboard allow for much more precise aiming than joysticks do, and so if you're playing with a controller on the PC, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. Now, what the Steam machine has done with the controller is brilliant. They have your typical handheld controller with buttons and triggers and all that, but they've replaced the joysticks with what I would basically call really fancy mouse pads, or maybe the term is touchpad. Like the shit you have on your laptop that you use with your finger to move the cursor instead of the mouse. I believe that's called a mouse pad, correct? So it's these two little pads, and they're sort of indented, and I guess this allows them to give feedback from the game. So how it was described to me is it's like if you were in a racing game or whatever and you're going 100 miles per hour, you try to take a sharp turn, the little thumb pad will give you resistance in that direction because you can't, you know, make a 90-degree angle turn at 100 miles per hour, and then your car like peels out in game. So it's like taking controller vibrations to the next level. But what's really awesome about that is that because you're using your actual fingertips to directly position your cursor or reticle, as opposed to just adjusting the thumbsticks, you're gonna have the precision of a mouse in a controller. It cuts out the middleman, a middleman that sucks. Because using your fingertips or a mouse, you can pinpoint the exact position you want to move your reticle. You move your finger or mouse to the exact position on the pad, and the game moves your shit to that exact position on the screen. Just imagine the pad as your screen. Whereas with joysticks, it's really a timing thing. If I want to move this joystick to the top right corner of the screen, I have to hold the stick in that direction for half a second, a quarter second, a full second, whatever. You know, obviously, you're not consciously counting out the time. You sort of get an instinctive feel for it, and that's why it's so awkward to adjust to new sensitivities, because you have to retrain the subconscious as opposed to just consciously acknowledging something. Now, that might not sound like a huge difference, but it's enough of a difference that aim assist is a requirement on the consoles and a hack on the PC. And I think it's really cool that they figured out how to bridge that gap, because that's really the only thing turning console players off from the PC. And really, it's the only thing separating the PC from a console. The fucking mouse and keyboard. And the other thing that I mentioned in that other video is the ability to upgrade your platform, which is incredibly important. The Xbox One and PlayStation are pretty much capped. You know, you hear people talking about how it took developers on the 360 and PS3 like 3 years to really fully utilize the capabilities of those consoles. But things are different now. Games on the X1 or PS4 aren't going to get much better than they already are. Even a decade from now, or however long their lifespan lasts, they're already outdated, and they're going to stay outdated because the hardware, the individual parts used to build the Xbox One and the PS4 aren't new. In fact, they're pretty old. What I always remind people is that the PC I have now is stronger than both consoles, and I put it together from used parts 3 years ago. And plenty of game developers have already taken this equipment to its extreme with games. There's no learning gap left for game developers to conquer. This is as good as it gets. Because the gaming industry, and I know I've talked about this a lot, in general has hit a ceiling. I don't know exactly when it happened, but I imagine it was probably somewhere around the time of Halo 3 or COD 4. You know, you look at the difference in graphics and gameplay between Halo 1 and Halo 2, it's a big deal. Between Halo 2 and Halo 3, it's a big deal. It's a big difference. You really notice it. You look at the difference from Halo 3 to Halo Reach, not a huge difference there. From Halo Reach to Halo 4, I think the graphics look different. I don't know if they look better. And this is because our computing power is getting stronger. We can make smaller computer chips, which means we can fit more of them into the box, but they aren't getting cheaper. They require stronger lasers to be manufactured and all that. And this is a problem because the console that Microsoft or Sony has to sell to the casual but enormous console gaming market has to be $500 or less, because they literally have it down to a science. This price will yield the maximum profits, because at $600, even though you're selling more per box, you're selling way less boxes, because 500 is where the consumer generally draws the line. And Microsoft and Sony don't know how to fit more computer chips into their machines while retaining the $500 price tag and turning a profit, and I don't blame them for that. It is a conundrum, and really, the only way I see at this point to solve it is by what I always call DLC for your console, right? You let people slowly evolve their machines the same way we all slowly evolve our games. But obviously, you know, the nitty-gritty of putting together computer parts is not for everybody, which I understand. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you really want to see an upgrade in the games you play, I think the Steam Machine is the route you have to go. You know, there hasn't been what I would consider a cutting-edge game in quite some time. When I go back to my childhood, there were huge leaps in what you could do with video games every single year. I remember vividly the differences in terms of graphics and the amount of enemies and missions and game modes between games like Shadows of the Empire on the N64 and 007 Nightfire on the GameCube, and then between 007 Nightfire and Halo Combat Evolved, and then on to Halo 2 and Halo 3. There were always really big differences, not only in terms of the graphics, but on how many enemies they could put on your screen. You know, and how intelligent those enemies were, things of that nature. Every year, it seemed like games were really taking it to a new level, especially with the rise of multiplayer. But like I was just talking about, I don't get that vibe from Halo 3 to Halo Reach or from Reach to Halo 4. I think the graphics look different, but not better. I think the gameplay is different, but I don't feel that they are doing something that couldn't have been done before, which is exactly how I feel with Call of Duty. I kind of feel this way about Grand Theft Auto. You know, San Andreas took huge, unprecedented leaps forward in terms of its gameplay from Vice City, but I don't feel GTA 5 did anything that couldn't have been done in GTA 4. I don't feel that Borderlands 2 did anything that couldn't have been done in Borderlands 1, and I feel that same way about Left 4 Dead, Fallout New Vegas, Mass Effect, the list goes on. And it's not that these weren't great games. I played all of them and they were good games, and that's because they had great new ideas or concepts or fine-tuned what wasn't working in the previous titles, but they were still stuck within the same technological restraints of their predecessors. And I think ultimately that's the difference between a game you enjoy and a game you remember for the rest of your life. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 was a great game. It was a masterpiece. But I'll only vividly remember my time on San Andreas for the rest of my life. Borderlands 2 was a great game, but I think really I'm only going to remember Borderlands 1. So I would argue that the Steam Machine is really just the next required step in the evolution of gaming. However, again, I understand that upgrading hardware is a non-starter with many people. But even if you're not interested in spending any more money or learning how to install shit, the Steam Machine is still the most logical option for anyone. For one, because it's already a superior piece of technology in the same price range that operates within the same capacity with controllers and whatnot. And two, there's going to be a bunch of really cool free software that you will have access to finally as a console gamer, specifically modding. SteamOS is open source, meaning anyone can build on or adapt the code, and as if that's not enough, they'll even let you rip out SteamOS altogether and put whatever operating system you want in there, which means mods, because if you can do anything, you can do anything. And the Steam Machine comes equipped with a web browser and this program called GNOME that lets you download and install new software. So to me, the Steam Machine represents people power, which excites me in the same way it excites me about YouTube channels and the internet in general. And it so perfectly combines the simplicity of console gaming with the capabilities of PC gaming that, you know, I just support it for a variety of equally awesome reasons. But I really didn't mean to step on anyone's toes. I know some kids were getting kind of upset at me in the last video, telling me how they were unsubscribing and shit, and it hit 20 dislikes in a day. That is a new record for me, but honestly, you know, people treat this shit like it's a religion when all I'm trying to do is persuade you to try out this new piece of equipment for that hobby that we both do. So cry me a river, build a bridge, and get the fuck over it. But it's cool, because I actually like weeding out the dumbasses, because I want this channel to be like the city of Rapture from the first Bioshock. Remember that shit? Just a bunch of drug-addicted philosopher kings. No regular cokeheads off the street are allowed, which is of course what you have to be in the first place to get that uptight over something like this. Please remember to rate. This is Batman, signing out.